Hey guys, Jack here, and before we get started, as always, a very special thank you to all of our supporters on Patreon. If you guys want to go support the channel, link down below. Just $1 or more will get you early access to all of our content as well as other special features. And of course, this episode is dedicated to the late Kirby Muro, who voiced Moroku in the English dub of the InuYasha series. If you guys want to go support his legacy and his family, there's a link down below to a charity donation in his name, so please go support the cause however you can. Thank you all so much for watching, and enjoy the show. The following is a fan-based video review under fair use. InuYasha the movie, Affections Touching Across Time, is owned by Sunrise Entertainment, Viz Media, Ocean Studios, Toho Studios, and Rumiko Takahashi. Please support the official release. What's up? It's BigJackFilms here, and welcome to another review and the beginning of Season 6. What can be said about the masterpiece? That's lovely. Hey guys, what's up? It's BigJackFilms here, and welcome to another review and the beginning of Season 6. What can be said about Rumiko Takahashi's masterpiece simply known as InuYasha? Practically nothing bad. It's the greatest television series of all time. And I'm not making this up, folks. InuYasha is hands down my #1 favorite television series of all time and easily my favorite anime of all time. If it's not home movies, Dragon Ball Z, Star Wars The Clone Wars, Game of Thrones, or Sailor Moon rocking my TV screen, it's this epic fantasy of a franchise set in a feudal fairy tale. The plot is about a girl named Kakome Higurashi who travels back 500 years into the past to ancient Japan and comes across a half-demon InuYasha, who together with their fellowship of friends and allies gather shards of the sacred Shikon no Tama, or mostly known as the Sacred Jewel, which in the wrong hands of demons and monsters can cause darkness and destruction throughout the land. But the race becomes an all-out war with the evil demon lord Naraku, who uses our heroes to make the jewel more evil and corrupt for personal gain. With so much to offer in its story, action, set pieces, and creative creatures, I put InuYasha on par with the Lord of the Rings of anime in terms of quality, even crowning Rumiko Takahashi as the J.R.R. Tolkien of Japan. If you want to see me cover the series in more detail, check out my InuYasha V-Logs on the series itself. The short version is, I was 13 when the series began, and it transitioned me into adulthood watching the Viz dub on YTV's Bionics, and introduced me to amazing characters and the anime community. And after 20 years and a new series, Yashahime, in good hands continuing the story, the series' love only grows over and over, from cosplays, merchandise, and video games to keep this epic quest in the mainstream. Now, by the time Season 2 began production and Season 1 was a massive hit in Japan, a movie, like most animes, was on the playing table. What followed was the inevitable first InuYasha movie, released in theaters in 2001. So, released in December that year, let's take a look at InuYasha the movie, Affections Touching Across Time. Taking place after Season 2 with the defeat of Ryokotse, the first movie begins with one of the sacred jewel shards awakening the ancient evil and rival to InuYasha's father named Minomaru, voiced by Vincent Gale, yeah, I'm going by the English dub guys, who sends his minions Ruli and Harley, voiced by Laniana Lindberg and Venus Terzo, to seek out the Fang Tetsaiga. Meanwhile, we are introduced to our heroes for new audiences, who continue their quest for the sacred jewel shards with InuYasha, voiced by Richard Ian Cox, Kagome, voiced by Monica Story, the Fox Demon Shippo, voiced by Julie Michaels, Sango the Demon Slayer, voiced by Kelly Sheridan, and the Magic Monk Moroku, voiced by the late Kirby Muro. After an epic opening scene battling with a giant scorpion for one of the jewel shards, Ray Harryhausen would have loved this, they're separated as Sango's two-tailed demon cat steed Kilala is put under a spell by Minomaru's minions, and InuYasha is lured into a trap by Minomaru to break the seal of the demon's father Hyoga, who was sealed away by InuYasha's father in the great battles of the western regions 200 years ago. So with the odds stacked against them, and time literally of the essence, InuYasha and his companions must break the spells of their loved ones and save the world from the Moth Demon's cloud of death and destruction. So how does the first film for the fantasy epic anime series compare to the show and later films? Well, despite it being not too heavily part of the overall story, the first InuYasha movie is still one of my favorites in the film series, and it's due to a few reasons. But it's mostly due to its world building, beautifully drawn animation, outstanding score, and of course our lovable cast of characters. Now while they pretty much stay the same for the show, I'm not gonna go into too much detail on each individual character. Besides, the movie actually acts as a first-timer for new audiences being introduced to this amazing story in general. However, the majority of the characters definitely get a chance to add more to their personalities and improve and build more on each of their individual relationships. For one thing, the title, Affections Touching Across Time, is more so connected to the brewing romance between InuYasha and Kagome, which really shows off more in the movie than the series really does. You know these two love each other, but given how most animes usually wait till the finale of a series to admit it, they do manage to pull it off without downright saying it. However, it is a little formulaic and feels like an episode of the show, which is passable, but doesn't add much for improvement other than some nice dialogue and a decently rewarded embrace by the third act, with some great visuals to go along with it.
I need you with me, Kagome. Haven't you realized that yet?
However, the other relationship that's surprisingly brought to the forefront and gets some good time to shine of all things is the connection between Sango and Kilala. It's a classic trope mostly in Japanese material for one of the heroes to be placed under a spell that converts them to evil, and the movie does this rather well between a warrior demon slayer and her steed companion who was born to be a vicious beast and killer of man, and you do want to see these two together again by the end of the film, and along with the amazing animation and incredible music, it hits the emotions precisely on target.
Kilala, I know this isn't how you want to be.
Now, the only character that seems to have a solo arc to fulfill is the monk Moroku, who is now forced to face his greatest challenge with himself as one of the minions stealing his wind tunnel powers, not knowing the true consequences of abusing its power. Early on, the series established due to the curse set on by the main villain of the story, Naraku, that Moroku's wind tunnel will grow each year until Moroku is consumed by it and essentially will die. Hence why he rushes to any woman possible to bear his children to carry on the family's mission in destroying Naraku.
As a token of my gratitude for helping our furry friend, would you ladies kindly consider bearing my children?
However, in the movie, it gives Moroku a chance to challenge himself in a mirror-esque battle with another using the same power, and it leads to a visual fate for one of the minions that could be Moroku's ultimate demise, giving him more stakes in what he is up against if his mission fails, and it works quite effectively.
Someday that very fate will befall me. My own flesh and bones will be sucked into the void of my cursed hand.
However, the other characters we've come to love and root for are really only there as exposition, cameos, or aren't even in the movie at all. Hell, essential characters like Koga the Wolf Demon, voiced by the very talented Scott McNeil on the series, never appears in any of the movies! Seriously, what the hell? Which I know some fans will take issue with, particularly one fangirl, which will make things a little awkward.
You didn't put Koga in the movies, you bunch of bastards!
Anyway, characters like Kaede, Hachi, and Sesshomaru do assist when they are needed, but don't add much to the overall plot other than being essentially extra firepower for the battle with Minomaru. but they do get a chance to show what they're made of. Even Jockin gets a win in this movie, which is always cool.
Behold the power of the Staff of Two Heads!
But some characters, unfortunately, are only used for exposition and to explain more of the plot. While Miyoga, voiced by Naraku's actor Paul Dobson, is the exception when it comes to exposition, the movie's biggest letdown for me personally is with Kikyo, unfortunately, not really contributing much for combat or abilities during the fight, and is only really there as plot details or fan service, which is disappointing on my end, given she's my favorite character.
For I am one of the dead, and as such, I too don't belong here.
But hey, at least you got to meet Sesshomaru! Because that's what the fans wanted?
Miko Kikyo to Sesshomaru-sama, unmei no deai.
It was one scene in the goddamn movie that didn't add anything to the plot! How the hell is this progressing the story?
私は全てのものを憎んでいる。
I swear to God, y'all Kikyo and Sesshomaru shippers are so crazy you tried to justify her being the mother in Yashahime. Well, you guys have been stretching it, because at the time of this recording, it's already been confirmed that Rin is the mother. Deal with it. Never! But with the heroes out of the way, how do these one-shot villains hold up in the movie? Well, while they are in no means as hated as Naraku, the villains actually do play a part in the series' overall world building, which is a massive positive for the film. I love the rich history and backstory of InuYasha and Sesshomaru's father constantly evolving as the series progresses, and this film showcases the Great War with Hyoga 200 years ago, when their father ruled the regions of the West, which I like to think is outside of Japan and more in Asia or Europe, making the world so much more expansive, letting the imagination of the audience run wild with the possibilities of the feudal fairy tale world outside of Japan. And for the villain Monomaru himself, he's honestly a pretty great one-shot villain. Always intimidating, but also charming. Like a poison flower that looks pretty in his posture, reminds me a lot of an elf of Middle-earth in some regards.
Thank you.
I love the concept of his true demonic form being a giant moth as well, and by the end he becomes a kaiju-sized monster with a massive army by his side. Makes me wonder when Godzilla will show up and kick his ass. I mean, to be fair, the movie was distributed by Toho, so moths are totally their thing.
I've never seen anything more pathetic.
I mean, for God's sakes, Monomaru has 2 girls by his side. It can't be any more of a coincidence.
You must be mad.
And speaking of which, Ruli and Harley are honestly pretty solid henchwomen as well. They come off as humanistic, but over time, they are a force to be reckoned with for our heroes, especially Sango and Moroku, with Ruli controlling Kilala against Sango and Hari stealing Moroku's wind tunnel. It's a pretty fair fight, all things considered, between them all.
Yes, how very observant.
Now, while the characters and story do pull off nicely in the movie, the animation, I can honestly say, is top-notch here. It still maintains the quality of the show, but this time with a cinematic budget behind it, adding more style to its visuals and allowing for a much larger scale to the world and story itself. The movie was produced on a budget of almost $3 million and grossed $10 million when it was released in Japan on December 15th, 2001. Funny enough, a mere few days before the Fellowship of the Ring hit cinemas, and later made a healthy profit in later parts of the world on DVD. In fact, this is a DVD I bought with my own pocket money at an old record store along with my first Lego set in 2004. Isn't that something? But back to the animation. Surprisingly enough, it's still the best looking of the film series and actually gives off the feeling of a Studio Ghibli or Miyazaki film. The dirt-like colors and majestic clothes really look nice on screen. Hell, despite some shots requiring CGI in some places, it actually works well for that time, using more shadows to hide its effects.
Indeed, such eccentrics.
I don't know if any of the animators or directors had worked for or went on to work for Studio Ghibli, but props for replicating that feel in this film, reminding me a lot of the likes of Princess Mononoke or Spirited Away.
Oh, you're one to pass judgment.
What also really surprises me is the way the movie was marketed in Japan, releasing trailers with footage either not from the movie or exclusive to the trailers themselves, to get audiences invested, and the animation on that front feels a lot slicker and much more in the style of an OVA, or even looking more on tone with the manga. Japan really had a good knack in marketing a film quite early on, which is lacking here in North America. However, one of the biggest biggest positives to the film is the amazing up-to-date soundtrack by the very talented Karo Wada, who, funny enough, for kaiju fans, was an apprentice to composer Akira Ifukube, the man who created the theme to the original Godzilla. Having worked on the show creating one of the most iconic television soundtracks of all time, he perfects it further with the film, with a much larger orchestra and providing a heavy cinematic feel. And a lot of the themes are carried over into the movie. The main theme especially is my personal favorite cover for InuYasha, adding much more samurai influences and a powerful presence of heroism and courage. It's kind of like the Fellowship theme by Howard Shore. It's just fucking awesome. However, for the new villains, Wada gives a new flavor to the score, and the theme to Manomaru giving the feeling of the characters being of the undead reminded me a lot of Jerry Goldsmith's work on The Mummy. Although I'm not gonna lie, seeing InuYasha and the group take on Imhotep from The Mummy would actually be kind of awesome.
What, Sunyosho? Stab you to hell! Taste like backlash wave!
Man, we are doing a lot of multi-crossover verses on this episode, aren't we? I mean, it's not like it's gonna lead up to a massive event sometime down the road. What the hell was that? Even the romantic themes are used to great effect here, especially with the track titled from the movie itself. The scene in the snow between InuYasha and Kagome is honestly nothing without Wada's emotional score to back it up, with its heavy use of pianos and violins. Now, much like the show and other anime movies, the film provides a song for the film's end credits, this time being the lovely written track No More Words by Ayumi Hamazaki, who has worked with the show prior, with the ending theme Dearest being one of my personal favorites of the series. But for No More Words, the song is honestly really relaxing. It's a great track to listen to at sunset, taking off from the last day of a con, and it works to pretty decent emotional effect. The soundtrack is available on the Wood Box Set DVD, as well as online in some sources. In 2004, the movie was given an English dub by the series' in-house studio, Ocean Studios, in Vancouver, Canada, with a vast variety of talented actors. And the DVD includes great bonus features with trailers, TV spots, great animated menus, and a fun little Japanese documentary on a recap of the series thus far after Season 2. And in terms of either the original Japanese dub or the English Ocean dub, I can't be the definitive choice on that matter, depending on what your viewing experiences decides. Now, aside from the fact that the movie doesn't add too much plot to the overall series and villains from the show don't make any appearances whatsoever, I still say that the first InuYasha movie is the best of the entire film series. Overall, Affections Touching Across Time is a great visual, big-budget addition to the InuYasha series, with a great set of villains, an intriguing set of world-building, Ghibli-inspired animation, a powerful updated score, and great acting from the characters. It's a fun, epic, and romantic follow-up to the first 2 seasons. It's one of the best films of the series, and worth seeking out on DVD, Netflix, and from what I heard, the movie and the series might be coming to HBO Max down the road. And for fans or newcomers of the series, the first film comes in at a solid 9.1 out of 10. A visually beautiful addition to the InuYasha series, and worth seeking out as part of your Shikon collection. But of course I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on Affections Touching Across Time? Do you think it's the best of the series, or one of the weaker ones? Let me know in the comment section below. And don't forget to check in soon when we continue the InuYasha V-Logs with Season 3. So until the next video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. And on the plus side, this one's better than movie 2. Yeah, I said it! This is BigJackFilms, signing off for now.
InuYasha, it's coming your way!
Iron Reaver!
Here, my lord. Our scouts say a day, maybe two, has passed since the demon was slain. We've just secured the body of the beast.
Okay. It's treachery.
These tracks are not from his kind, my boy. Besides, you have not seen his kind for almost a millennium. Long before the Great Battle of Hyuga some 150 years ago.
I guess you're right. Any signs from our men further down the frozen river?
No. The priestess and lord hired has probably since returned to the ship. I wouldn't let him know. It's been over a year since he last saw her in the East Continent.
So, pupil has surpassed the teacher. Captain! But